Okay, everybody, welcome. Good evening. Good evening. It is 6th of September. That was quick. Anybody else? Pretty quick? Fastest year of your life, right? Just crazy. Boom, 6th of September. Okay. How many of you, we hear it all the time, right? I would love to have more leaders come into my business. I want more business builders. I want more people sharing, right? How many of you would love that? Okay. Just Mikey. Anybody else? Okay. How many of you would love people that would come in and just want to hit the ground running and just kill the game? And I'm going to teach you tonight my number one strategy for doing that if you would like. If you want me to teach you my number one strategy for attracting powerful leaders into your organization, put a 1 in the chat box. If you want me to teach you how to teach you my number one strategy for attracting powerful leaders into your organization, put a 1 in there. Okay, cool. So the first thing I want to ask you is, when you look at the leaders in this company, or you look at the leaders anywhere, really, people that are creating successful results in their lives, what are the character traits that they have? What are the personal qualities that you recognize and notice about these people, right? And maybe I'm one of those people, don't have to be, maybe Eden is, I don't know. So drive, resilient, self-secure, grit, authentic, honest, social drive, always show up in all areas, consistent, okay, disciplined, what else? Confident, open, ownership, fun, teachable, dedicated, driven, okay, what else? What are the qualities? And you guys can type more than one, right? Type more than one. Social, humble, enthusiastic, patient, teachable, okay, what else? What are some other things? Outgoing, energy, motivated, trustworthy, okay? What else? Again, you can practice what you preach. I love that, Art. That's great. Discipline, perseverance, willing, so coachable, yeah, willing to follow system, passionate, okay, patient, honest. They walk the walk. They lead by example. They're consistent. They're an example. Okay. Always willing to go first. They think outside the box. They're open-minded. What else? What are some of the other things that you notice when you look at a Susan slide, for example, right? Goal-driven, helping and serving others is their focus. Okay. All right. When you look at a David Wood, when you look at a Kathy Coover, present, belief in self, authentic, right? When you look at a Michael and Lynn Klaus, right? Lynn Hagedorn Klaus, a strategist, they're in alignment, energy, no excuses, passion, they're training others, they're helping others. Okay, what else? When you look at a Emily Vavra or Hayden Vavra, what else do you see? When you look at them, what do you notice? What do you see? Cooperation, energy, visionaries, never giving up, powerful, charismatic, consistent, postured, present, authentic, belief, results, in the trenches, unshakable, high vibration, they care, fun, hungry, I love that, resourceful, good listeners, speaking up, they own their voices. Okay, so for years and years, just like you, I wanted to be able to attract these type of people into my business. Old company back in the day. And I wanted people that were hungry, and I wanted people that were consistent, and I wanted people that had integrity, and I wanted people who were honest, and I wanted people who took responsibility for themselves, and I wanted people who took responsibility for their results, and I wanted people who didn't complain, and I wanted people who weren't critical of everything, and I wanted people who were honest, and who were as committed as I was, and who didn't make excuses. I wanted all these things and all these people, right? And I worked and I sent messages and I made calls, and really this was before social media even, so I would go door to door, almost literally from house to house at times, knocking on doors, going to universities, right? Like, so that's what I'd spent all this time doing. And no matter what, once in a while, yeah, I'd have somebody come in, but they wouldn't stay. And once in a while, maybe they'd stay, but they would just do a little bit. And I got frustrated. I got really frustrated. And one day I had a mentor of mine that said something to me that forever changed my life and changed my business. And he said, Zach, he said, you're more concerned with looking rich than you are with being rich. He said, you're more concerned with looking rich than you are with being rich. Now, he said this to me in front of a room of 100 people, standing, just me in the front of the room. He was in the back of the room, 100 people in the room. And in front of everybody, Zach, you're more concerned with looking rich than you are with being rich. And at first, how do you think I felt at first when he first said that? When he first said that in front of 100 people, how do you think? How do you think I felt? I felt awful. I felt really angry. I thought this asshole doesn't know what he's talking about. Excuse my language. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know me. And he didn't know me. In fact, he had just met me. I had just been in that workshop for less than 5 hours. And I hadn't talked the entire time. I just sat in my seat. And in front of 100 people, having never met me before, knowing nothing about my history, nothing about my family, nothing about how hard I thought I was working, nothing about my relationships, nothing. He just looked at me and said, you're more concerned with looking rich than you are with being rich. And like I said, I got angry. And I didn't want to come back to the workshop. Yeah, I was defensive and pissed off, of course. And I didn't want to come back to the workshop. And I went home that night and I really thought about it. And I asked myself the question, I said, okay, let me think about the person that said this to me. And let me look at my results and his results. And here was my results. I was the one standing in front of a room with no money, my relationship falling apart, my dreams quickly crumbling, and all with this attitude of, I'll figure it out. It's okay. I got it all taken care of. I'm a big deal. But I was the person that couldn't even afford to go to that workshop had my friend not paid for me to go to that workshop. And the guy that was giving me the feedback, you know who he was? He was a best-selling author. He spoke on stages all around the world. He did trainings like the one I was in, weekend after weekend, impacting thousands of people every single year. He had a beautiful big home in the state where the training was. He had another huge home that's like a ranch with like horses and a farm and the whole thing. So I stopped and I considered that night, I journaled about it. And I thought to myself, well, maybe I should listen. Maybe I should consider that what he's saying is true. Because he has the results that I say I want, and I'm the one that barely has food in my stomach. And why? Because for years and years and years, I was pretending. For years and years and years, I was out of alignment. And so what I thought about and what I realized in that moment and during that training and in the subsequent years was that what I very, very quickly came to realize is that who you are being is more important than what you are doing. And what I mean by that is this. If you're saying, I want to attract people who are consistent, but you're not consistent, you're never going to attract those people. If you're saying you want people that are self-starters, but you're always waiting for everyone to go first, you're never going to attract self-starters. If you're saying you want people that are going to show up no matter what's happening, but you're not showing up no matter what's happening, you're never going to attract those people. If you want people that are honest, but you're constantly lying to yourself, you're never going to attract people who are honest. And so what I went to work on, and this is what I want to invite you to go to work on, is I want you to go to work on recognizing and looking and evaluating what was the thing that you wrote in the chat box? What were the couple of things that you wrote in the chat box? And I just want you to be completely honest with yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being completely in alignment with that thing, completely, 100%, and 1 being not even a little bit. When you look at the things that you wrote down in terms of who and the types of people you're looking to attract, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you actually showing up in your own life? Now, the key to this exercise is you can't do what I did for so many years and what most of us do. You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie to yourself, because how many of you would agree that we are really good at lying to ourselves? Type in the chat box, or am I all alone in that? How many of you would agree that we're really good at lying to ourselves? We're really good at saying, well, no, I talked to 3 people this week. I'm really going for it. Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to get on the webinar, but it was my friend's 7th cousin's boyfriend. They got a new little Chihuahua, and it was the Chihuahua's birthday, and I really felt like I had to be there. We're not honest with ourselves. And we lie to ourselves. And what happens is when we lie to ourselves and we go and connect with people, whether it's in person at a tasting or if it's online, when we lie to ourselves, you know what they pick up on unconsciously? They pick up that if you're willing to lie to yourself, then they cannot trust you to take them to where they want to go in their life. And so what I really want you to focus on when it comes to attracting the people in your business that you want to attract in your business is I want to invite you to start to hold yourself to a really high standard. Now, that's not easy. It's not. It does take work. But here's what I can promise you. It's harder to continually lie to ourselves than it is to take complete responsibility for who we've been and how we've been showing up, and then move forward and try and improve in that arena. How many of you have heard us say, and maybe you heard David Wood even say this during the workshop, how many of you have heard people say your income will grow to the level that you grow yourself, right? How many of you have heard us say that over and over and over again, right? The hard work in this business is not learning how to talk with people. The hard work in this business is not throwing a tasting. The hard work in this business is not drawing the compensation plan. The hard work is not sending a video. The hard work is not doing a follow-up. The hard work is not putting it in your calendar to be on team calls and to get on webinars. That's not the hard work. That's the easy stuff. Type in the chat box, how many of you would agree when you really think about it, those are the easy things to do? Type in the chat box, how many of you would agree those are the easy things to do? Right? It's really, think about it. Like if you looked at this as a job, which it's not, it's a business, but if you looked at it as a job and your job requirements, let's just look at it this way. Your employer said to you, okay, look, 3 times a week or twice a week, there's a mandatory webinar for you to get on. No matter what, get on the webinar, do your best to have people come with you on the webinar. Twice a week in the books. Also, 1 time a week, there's a Sunday evening training call, mandatory. Also, mandatory is at a minimum every single day, you've got to talk with 3 to 5 new people about this company, okay? Every single day. You've also got to follow up with 3 to 5 people every single day, and you've got to work on sending videos and then following up with those people and going through that process. How many of you, if that was your job, recognize that when we look at it that way, it's fairly simple. This is my job. Type in the chat box. How many of you recognize that these are just easy things to do? Very simple. It's just a business. It's just a job. It's just a job. But the difference between the people who would excel in that employment environment are the same as the people that excel in this business environment. And those are the people that recognize that, yes, there are skills that I've got to learn. There are ways to talk with people. There are ways to follow up. We do training like that all the time. You have excellent leadership on this team call that are constantly posting things in the group. You have access to so many world-class leaders in this company that you can learn from when it comes to a skill thing. The question you've got to ask yourself is, are you willing to go to work on the hard parts? Are you willing to go to work on the parts of yourself that maybe, just like for me, like I was, aren't so sexy? Because you know who I was? I was arrogant. I was nasty. I was defensive. I was constantly trying to prove myself. I needed everyone's validation. It was all about me. How much money I made or didn't make was a representation of my value and worth as a human being. I was never good enough to deserve a fulfilling relationship. I wasn't emotionally available to my family. I was a bad uncle. I wasn't present in my relationships or in my conversations because I was obsessed, and I was obsessed with one thing and one thing only. You know what I was obsessed with? Me, myself. Myself, that's all I cared about. And guess what my results brought me? Nada. And the bit of results that I would get in my businesses, guess what would happen? Collapsed. collapsed. And why? Because I was masking. I was hiding behind the easy things to do, the skills, the sales. I can talk with anybody, right? I can do that. I can make friends. I can build relationships. Whoop-de-doo. I was the worst, Michelle, the worst. I promise. None of you would have wanted to be, some of you might not want to be in a relationship with me now, but I promise you, let's go back 12, 15 years. Never, ever, ever. Had I shown up in Europe the way I was 12, 15 years ago, all of you would have, no chance. Zero. But I didn't like my results. And it wasn't that I didn't like my results in business. That was one thing. But worse than that, I didn't like my results in how I felt about myself. I didn't like how I was showing up. I didn't like that I wasn't being honest with the people in my life, and I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't consistent. I wasn't being abundant. I wasn't creating. I was complaining. I was criticizing, judging everything and everybody. The world is against me. Everyone's out to get me. Why do all these bad things happen all the time? I'd complain about this. I'd complain about that. And I took a big look in the mirror. And I asked myself the question, how's it working for you, Zach? Pretty obvious answer. It's not working. It's not working. And so I want to invite you as you go on this journey, I want you to commit to, yes, learning the skills, but I also want you to commit to starting to recognize some of the areas in which you know you're not a 10 out of 10. You know you're not, and it's okay that you're not. Because the beautiful thing about it, here's what I've learned, the beautiful thing about it is one of the vast majorities we show up as a 3, 4, or 5 in a lot of areas is because of how we were conditioned as little kids. That part's not our fault. But once you're an adult, once we're grown up and we're aware of it, now it's our responsibility. It's on us. Am I criticizing or am I creating? Am I being abundant or am I being apathetic? Am I being a team player or am I making it all about me? When no one's looking, when no one's watching me, am I still in integrity? In my opinion, leadership is doing what you'll do when no one's watching. How are you showing up when no one can see you? That's leadership. So when you want to attract some big players, when you want to attract people that want to work hard, when you want to attract people that want to put in the time and really go get this with you, you got to ask yourself, in those quiet moments when it's just you, or it's just you with some friends, what's coming out of your mouth? How are you talking about this whole thing? How are you talking about yourself and your mind? What are the stories that you keep telling yourself? Are you willing to catch yourself and go, wait a minute, hold on, let me take a step back. I'm complaining about this, I'm complaining about that. Let me ask myself a question. What's more valuable? The person that I'm looking to attract in my life, would I want them to be complaining about the situation or would I want them to try and find a solution to the problem? That's a big one. Think about it for a moment. Think about what I just said. For as much time as you spend complaining about a problem, you could be creating equal energy towards creating a solution. So check yourself. Look in the mirror. Ask yourself the question when you're down, when you're low, when you're not showing up, when you're inconsistent. Ask yourself the question, wow, would I join me today? Would I join me? Now that doesn't mean you're not allowed to have bad days. Make no mistake. We're humans. I still have days that are challenged. I've had a couple of weeks during this time where there have been things in my brain where I've been like, wow, that's still coming up for me? All these years later, all these books, all this personal development, all the coaching I've done, and wow, that thought is still there? Oh my God. Because it's like filing cabinets. They never go away. But the key is, how quickly do I look at it, I recognize and go, that's not mine. That's not who I am. Great. What action can I take? What action can I take to change my state, to change my energy? How can I create more of an attractive personality for myself in this moment? And see, what happens is when you're willing to do what is hard, life becomes easy. When we think it's easy, to sweep things under the rug and it's not look and a not look and a not look and a not look. But guess what happens? When we first sweep things under the rug, like when we're kids, right? Your parents say, clean your room. And you go, okay. And you just hide a couple things under the rug and a couple things under the bed and a couple things under the closet. right? And then what happens? You do it again. She's not going to notice. They're not going to notice. My mom's not going to notice. My dad's not going to notice. You do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And guess what happens? It compounds. It compounds. It compounds. And what started off as a little bit of dust under the rug, guess what happens? It starts to lift. And everything you were trying to hide now gets exposed. Everything you were trying to hide now gets exposed. So my strong recommendation is whatever you're avoiding, lean into it. If there's some dirt on the floor, get to work on cleaning it up. If you've swept some stuff under the rug, bring it out from hiding. Because when we're willing to look in the mirror, when we're willing to look in the mirror and have an awareness around how we've contributed to our results in our lives, that's step one in transformation. That's step one in attracting the types of people we want into our lives. That's the biggest thing, is willing to look in the mirror and go, here's where we're starting. You know? It's like, for how many of you, when you took your before photo, maybe for Isagenix, you looked at the picture, you're like, oh my God. But at least I know where I'm starting. That's how I was when I saw my photo. I was like, oh my God. And sometimes it's going to be like that when it comes to our emotions and the things that we're suppressing and the things that we're avoiding. It's going to be like that. Oh my God. But if I'm aware of it, I allow myself to become aware of it. Now I can start to create a new context to it. I can start to take responsibility for it. I can start to pay attention to the times in which I am being judgmental, or I am being critical, or I am being insensitive, or I am being exclusive of other people, or where I could be a better leader, or where I could be more consistent. Right? So there's so much strength and there's so much power in shining a light on the stuff we don't want to look at. Because all those thoughts, all that stuff you're avoiding, just like, it's like cockroaches. And what happens when you shine a light on a cockroach? What do? They flee, they run away. But what do? We keep the lights off because we don't want to know that there are cockroaches there. And you know why we don't want to know there's cockroaches there? Because we don't want to admit that we're the ones that brought the cockroaches in the first place. Yikes. But when we do, we create so much clarity. And when you have clarity, you can make progress. And progress is what leads to fulfillment. Progress is what makes us happy, right? Like, you look at, I think Evelyn just the other day posted, here was my first starting photo, right? And now you look at how far Evelyn's come in her own fitness and in her own physique, right? Imagine the feeling. It's not the end result, it's the progress. It's the 2 weeks into the journey, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at that. Look at that little guy. Look at that ab coming in a little bit, right? Or like for women, right? Like, oh my God, my collarbones. And so what does that make you want to do? It makes you want to work harder. Because when you're creating progress, you're creating more fulfillment. And fulfillment becomes happiness. And so do you understand how when people say happiness is a choice, happiness is really a choice. Happiness is really a choice based on who you're allowing yourself to be on any given moment. And are you choosing to stay stuck in some thought just because it's easier to feel bad and sweep it under the rug than it is to take a light out, shine it on the cockroaches, and get them to spread? What are you choosing? Who are you choosing to be? And here's what I'll share with you right now, in this time in our history, in this time in our economy, in this time in our company. People are looking for leadership. People are looking for certainty. People are looking for clarity. People are looking for all the things that you drew up in that chat box. And you have the choice. You have the choice. Having nothing to do with how well you talk, having nothing to do with how good of a presenter you are, having nothing to do with how well you know the templates of the system or anything along those lines, having nothing to do with those things. The reason people will join you is because they will look at you and they'll listen to what you have to say. And in the back of their mind, they'll say, I don't know what it is about this person, but there's something, their confidence is so pure. They know themselves. They understand themselves. And you show a mirror to them of what that can look like. When you learn to know yourself and to like yourself and to trust yourself, then guess what happens? People will do business with you. Why? Because people do business with people that they know, they like, and they trust. But until you know you, and until you like you, and until you learn to trust you, no one else will either. And that's the work. That's the hard work. That's the journey. And I promise you, it's harder, it's more painful, it's more frustrating, it's more depressing to stay stuck than it is to lift the rug and start sweeping it out. I promise you that. But you got to do the work. You got to go in the gym. You got to lift the weights. You got to follow that plan. But when you do, there's a person waiting for you on the other side. There's a person waiting for you on the other side of all the junk and all the stories and all the inconsistency and all the excuses and all the complaining and all the ego and all the criticism. There's a person waiting for you on the other side that when you meet them, the joy you'll experience on a day-to-day basis, the fulfillment, the confidence, the certainty, the strength, the posture, the consistency, it becomes who you are. It's like downloading new software into your computer system. So with that, I just want you to know that I'm very clear on what the future version of all of you are capable of becoming. And I know that I can't wait to meet that person and to see what they decide to create, to see what you decide to create. Have a good evening, everybody. Lots of love, and we'll talk to you soon.